The lights on the bridge of the Soul's Pride flickered red. Taiyang gripped the edge of the control panel and watched the massive alien ship grow larger on the view screen. His heart pounded in his chest. This was humanity's first real chance at making friends among the stars, and everything was going wrong. "They're not responding to our signals," Captain Jiwoo said from her command chair. Her voice was calm, but Taeyang could see the worry in her eyes. "Ambassador, what do we do?" Taeyang ran his hand through his dark hair. 3 months ago, he had been a simple pilot. Then someone decided that a former military man might understand these warrior aliens better than regular diplomats. Now he was responsible for preventing an interstellar incident. "Keep trying," he said. "They came all this way. They must want to talk." The Velthian Empire had contacted Earth 6 months earlier. Their message was simple and proud. They wanted to meet the new species that dared to explore the stars. But their words carried a warning too. Prove your worth or stay in your corner of space. Ambassador Hana stood next to Taiyang. She was older, experienced, and had taught him everything about diplomacy in the past few months. The Velthians respect strength, she reminded him. But they also value honor. Don't show weakness. The communication screen suddenly came to life. A face appeared that made everyone on the bridge hold their breath. She was beautiful in an alien way, with silver skin that seemed to glow and eyes that burned like purple stars. Her features were sharp and proud. She wore armor that looked like it was made from crystallized starlight. "I am Princess Lyra of House Velthus," she said. Her voice was cold and commanding. "You are the humans?" Taeyang stepped forward and bowed slightly. Not too deep, Hana had taught him. Show respect but not submission. "I am Ambassador Taeyang. We are honored to meet you, Princess." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Your ship is small. Your weapons are weak. Why should the Velthian Empire waste time with your kind?" Taeyang felt his jaw tighten. He wanted to defend humanity, to list all their achievements. But Hana's words echoed in his mind. "Stay calm. Stay diplomatic. We are new to the stars," he said carefully. "But we are eager to learn. We hope to find friendship among the galaxy's great civilizations." Princess Lyra laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Friendship? You think friendship matters in the void between stars? Only strength matters. Only power. You must prove yourselves worthy." "Then tell us how," Taeyang said. "We will meet your challenge." The princess smiled, and it made her look even more dangerous. "Very well. Prepare to receive me aboard your vessel. We will begin the trials of worth. If you fail, you will return to your small planet and never leave again." The screen went dark. Captain Jiwoo looked at Taeyang with wide eyes. "Is she serious? She's coming here?" "Apparently," Taeyang muttered. He turned to Hana. "What are these trials?" Hana shook her head. "Our information about Velthian culture is limited, but everything we know says they value combat prowess and strategic thinking. Be ready for anything." 20 minutes later, Princess Lyra materialized in the landing bay with 2 guards. They were huge, at least 7 feet tall, covered in the same silver skin, but Lyra commanded attention even among them. She walked with perfect confidence, like she owned the ship already. Taeyang met her with a formal welcome. He had changed into his best diplomatic uniform. Hana stood beside him along with Captain Jiwoo. A small honor guard of human soldiers lined the walls. "Your vessel is primitive," Lyra said, looking around the landing bay, "but clean. That is something." "We maintain what we have with pride," Taeyang replied. Lyra studied him with those burning purple eyes. "You are young for an ambassador. How old are you in your years?" 28. "A child," she said, but there was a hint of curiosity in her voice. "I am 73 cycles. Still young for my people, but I have trained as a warrior since I could walk." She moved past him, forcing the group to follow. "Show me your command center. I will judge if you are even capable of beginning the trials." As they walked through the corridors, alarms suddenly blared. The ship shook violently. Taeyang grabbed the wall to steady himself. Lyra didn't even stumble. "What is happening?" she demanded. Captain Jiwoo pressed her communication device. "Engine room report. We've got a coolant leak in reactor 2. A voice crackled back. "It's spreading fast. If it reaches the core, we'll have to do an emergency shutdown." "That would leave us dead in space," Jiwoo said quietly. Lyra's hand moved to a weapon at her side. "Is this a trick? Some pathetic attempt to—" "No," Taeyang said firmly. "This is real." He turned to Jiwoo. "How bad?" "Bad enough. The leak is in a high radiation zone. We'd need to send someone in environmental suits, but it would take 20 minutes to prepare them. We don't have 20 minutes, the engineer's voice said over the comm. Tae Yang made a decision. I'm going. I did reactor training in the military. Talk me through it. Ambassador, you can't, Hana started. There's no time to argue, Tae Yang said. He looked at Lyra. Princess, I know this looks bad, but I promise this is not a trick. Wait here. I'll handle this. Something flickered in Lyra's eyes. Surprise, maybe. She nodded slowly. I will come with you. The radiation. My people are more resistant than yours, she said, and I will not stand by while others face danger. It is not the Velthian way. They rushed to the engine room together. The heat hit them like a wall. Red emergency lights painted everything in blood. Taeyang grabbed a toolkit and moved toward the massive reactor. He could see the coolant spraying from a damaged pipe. There, he pointed. We need to seal that section and reroute the flow. Lyra moved without hesitation. She was strong, far stronger than a human. She grabbed a heavy valve wheel that Taeyang couldn't have budged alone and turned it. The spray lessened but didn't stop. The manual override, Taeyang shouted over the noise. We need to activate it together. They worked side by side, human and alien. Taeyang's hands flew over controls while Lyra used her strength to force damaged mechanisms into place. Sweat poured down his face. He could feel the radiation even through his uniform. Finally, the spray stopped. The alarms quieted. The reactor stabilized. Taeyang leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Lyra stood straight, barely winded, but there was something different in her expression. You did not hesitate, she said quietly. You put yourself in danger for your crew. Of course, Taeyang said. That's what leaders do. Lyra reached for a pouch at her belt. She pulled out a small crystal vial filled with glowing blue liquid. In my culture, when warriors face death together, they share the sacred drink of bonds. It is a great honor. She opened the vial and took a sip, then handed it to Taeyang. He hesitated only a moment. This felt important, ceremonial. Refusing might be an insult. He took the vial and drank. The liquid tasted like starlight and thunder. Lyra's eyes went wide. Her purple skin somehow went pale. She stared at Taeyang like he had just grown a second head. What? He asked. What's wrong? Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. Her guards burst into the engine room. One of them saw the empty vial in Taeyang's hand and gasped. Princess, the guard said in a shocked voice. Is this the bonding drink? Lyra looked like she might faint. Yes, the guard turned to Taeyang. His expression was somewhere between horror and awe. Then by ancient law you are now betrothed to Princess Lyra. You are to be her husband. Taeyang's brain stopped working. What? Lyra found her voice and it was full of panic. Wait. You're making me your wife? The conference room aboard the Soul's Pride had never felt so small. Taeyang sat on one side of the table, still trying to understand what had happened. Princess Lyra sat on the other side, her arms crossed and her face showing pure fury. Between them, various humans and Velthians argued in raised voices. This is absurd, Ambassador Hana said for the 10th time. There must be a way to undo this. High Chancellor Draven, a tall Velthian with scars across his silver face, shook his head. The bonding drink is sacred. Once shared during a moment of crisis, the bond is absolute. It has been our law for 10,000 years. Dr. Sumin, the ship's xenoanthropologist, frantically scrolled through data on her tablet. There has to be a loophole. Every culture has exceptions to their rules. Not this rule, Draven said firmly. The bond was created to unite warriors who face death together. It is unbreakable. Princess Lyra slammed her hand on the table, leaving a small dent in the metal. I will not accept this. I am third in line to the throne of the Velthian Empire. I cannot be bound to she struggled for words, to a human. Taeyang felt his temper rising. Hey, I didn't ask for this either. I was just trying to save my ship. You should have refused the drink, Lyra snapped. You handed it to me. How was I supposed to know it was some kind of marriage ceremony? Everyone knows about the bonding drink. Everyone except humans, apparently. Captain Jiwoo raised her hands. Everyone calm down. Fighting won't solve this. Quan, Taeyang's best friend and fellow diplomat, leaned over and whispered. You really know how to make an impression on the ladies. Not helping, Taeyang muttered. Dr. Sumin looked up from her tablet. I found something. Princess Lyra, in your culture, is there any way for a bonded couple to separate with honor? Draven considered this. Only one way. If the bonded proves themselves unworthy through trials, the bond can be dissolved without shame. Lyra's eyes lit up. The trials of worth. That's perfect. This human couldn't possibly pass them. Wait, Tae-Yang said. What are these trials? Draven smiled, and it wasn't friendly. 3 challenges that test the qualities we Velthians value most. Combat prowess, strategic mind, and endurance of spirit. In 10,000 years, only Velthians have ever passed all 3. Other species have tried? Hana asked. Hundreds, Draven said. All have failed. Most within the first trial. Tae-Yang looked at Lyra. She was clearly expecting him to refuse to back down. That would let her dissolve the bond and save her precious reputation, but something stubborn rose up in him. Humanity had been dismissed by the galaxy for too long. Someone had to show them what humans could do. I'll do it, he said. Lyra's mouth fell open. You? You'll do what? The trials. I'll take them. When I pass, we can end this bond with honor, and maybe your people will finally take humans seriously. When you pass? Lyra laughed, but it sounded forced. You mean if you survive? Draven nodded slowly. Very well. The trials will begin in 3 days. Princess Lyra will return to the Crimson Dawn. Ambassador Tae-Yang will be given time to prepare. He looked at Tae-Yang with something that might have been respect. You are brave. Foolish, but brave. After the Velthians left, Quan put a hand on Tae-Yang's shoulder. Are you crazy? These aliens have been conquering space for thousands of years. Their idea of a test probably involves fighting monsters or something. Probably, Tae-Yang agreed. But what choice do I have? If I refuse, it insults them and we lose any chance at an alliance. If I try and fail, at least we showed courage, Hana sighed. And if you die? Then you tell everyone I died doing something incredibly stupid, but diplomatic. Dr. Sumin spent the next 3 days teaching Tae-Yang everything she could about Velthian culture. They valued strength, yes, but also honor and tradition. They respected those who fought for others, not just for themselves. They admired clever solutions to impossible problems. The thing is, Sumin explained, every species that tried these trials approached them like Velthians would. They tried to outmuscle and outfight them. That's why they all failed. So what should I do? Tae-Yang asked. Be human. Use what makes us different. The day of the trials came too quickly. Tae-Yang boarded a shuttle to the Crimson Dawn with a small team. Captain Jiwoo, Quan, Dr. Sumin, and a young engineer named Yuna who had volunteered to provide technical support. The Velthian flagship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Soul's Pride. Its corridors were wide and tall, designed for warriors. Every surface seemed designed for combat or ceremony. Weapons lined the walls like artwork. Princess Lyra met them in the arena, a vast circular room with seats rising up on all sides. Hundreds of Velthians watched from above. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like captured moonlight. Ambassador Tae-Yang, she said formally, you stand before the Velthian Empire to undertake the trials of worth. Do you accept this challenge freely? I do, Tae-Yang said. His voice echoed in the huge space. Then let the first trial begin. Combat prowess? The doors at the far end of the arena opened. A Velthian warrior entered, even larger than Lyra's guards. He carried no weapon, but his hands looked strong enough to tear metal. Warmaster Krell, an old Velthian with white scars covering his arms, spoke from a platform above. The rules are simple. You fight until one of you cannot continue. You may use any method you wish. There are no weapons provided, but you may use anything in the arena. Tae-Yang looked around. The arena was mostly empty except for some pillars and a few pieces of equipment along the walls. Nothing that looked like a useful weapon. The warrior charged. He was fast, impossibly fast for someone so large. Tae-Yang barely dodged the first strike. The warrior's fist hit the ground where Tae-Yang had been standing and cracked the stone floor. Tae-Yang couldn't match that strength. He knew it, every Velthian watching knew it. But he could be faster and smarter. He used every trick from his military training. He dodged and weaved, never staying still. When the warrior grabbed for him, he slipped away. He used the pillars in the arena, making the larger fighter work harder to reach him. The crowd booed. They wanted a real fight, not a chase. But Tae-Yang noticed something. The warrior was getting tired. Not much, but a little. Velthians were strong, but they weren't used to long fights. They expected to win quickly with overwhelming force. Humans were different. Humans were endurance hunters. Back on Earth, ancient humans would chase prey for hours, even days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. So Taiyang kept moving. He let the warrior chase him. Every time the warrior swung, Taiyang made sure the strike hit a pillar or the wall, wasting energy. He watched and learned the warrior's patterns, his favorite moves. The warrior was breathing hard now, frustrated, angry. He charged again, telegraphing his move. Taiyang was ready. He used a move from Taekwondo, stepping inside the warrior's reach and using the larger fighter's momentum against him. The warrior stumbled off balance. Taiyang swept his leg, and the huge Velthian crashed to the ground. Before the warrior could rise, Taiyang jumped on his back and locked his arm around the warrior's neck in a chokehold. It was a technique that didn't require strength, just proper position. He squeezed, cutting off blood flow to the brain. The warrior struggled, but he was tired and couldn't get leverage. After a few seconds, he tapped the ground 3 times. The universal signal of submission. The arena went silent. Taiyang released the hold and stepped back, breathing hard. He looked up at Princess Lyra. Her expression was unreadable, but she stood and spoke clearly. The human has passed the first trial. The crowd erupted in surprised voices. Some Velthians looked impressed. Others looked angry. But all of them were paying attention now. Taiyang caught Lyra's eyes across the arena. For just a moment he thought he saw something other than anger there. Interest, maybe. Or curiosity. War Master Krell descended from his platform. He studied Taiyang like a puzzle he couldn't solve. You fought like no warrior I have ever seen. You did not try to match strength with strength. I fought smart, Taiyang said. That's the human way. Krell nodded slowly. Rest now. Tomorrow brings the second trial. It will test your mind as your body has been tested today. As Taiyang left the arena with his team, Quan slapped him on the back. That was incredible. Did you see their faces? But Taiyang was watching Princess Lyra. She stood alone in the arena, looking at the place where he had won. Her expression was troubled, like she was thinking about something she didn't want to admit. 2 trials left, Taiyang thought, and somehow passing them felt more important than just ending a bond. It felt like he was fighting for every human who had ever been dismissed or underestimated. He would show them what humans could do. The strategy room on the Crimson Dawn was designed to intimidate. Star maps covered every wall, showing the vast territory of the Velthian Empire. Taiyang stood at a large holographic table while War Master Krell explained the second trial. Strategic mind, Krell said, waving his hand over the table. A 3-dimensional battlefield appeared, showing 2 fleets facing each other. You will command the smaller force. Your objective is simple. Defeat the enemy or achieve your mission goal. You have 1 hour. Taiyang studied the display. The enemy fleet was 3 times larger than his own forces. Standard military thinking said this was impossible. The Velthians watching from the observation deck above clearly thought so too. He could hear their skeptical whispers. Princess Lyra stood among them, her arms crossed. She had barely spoken to him since yesterday's trial, but he noticed she always watched closely, like she was trying to figure him out. What's the mission goal? Taiyang asked. A supply convoy must reach the colony world Draxia Prime. The enemy blockade prevents this. The colony will starve in 3 weeks without supplies, and I can use any strategy I want. Krell smiled coldly. Any strategy? Though I warn you, hundreds have tried this scenario. All have failed. The numbers simply do not favor victory. Taiyang looked at the simulation again. The Velthians were right about one thing. In a straight fight, he would lose. The enemy had more ships, better positions, and stronger firepower. Every tactical advantage belonged to them, but humans didn't always fight fair. Can I have 15 minutes to study the scenario before starting? Taiyang asked. Granted, Krell said, surprised by the request. Taiyang pulled Dr. Suman and Yuna aside. I need to know everything about Velthian military history. Their famous victories, their tactics, everything. Suman quickly pulled up files on her tablet. They're aggressive warriors. They favor direct assault, overwhelming force, and honorable combat. They consider tricks and deception to be cowardly. That's their weakness, Taiyang said. They expect everyone to fight like they do. He turned to Yuna. This is a simulation, right? It has to follow rules of physics and warfare? Should, Yuna said. Why? Because humans wrote a whole book on asymmetric warfare. Time to teach these aliens something new. When the timer started, Taiyang made moves that confused everyone watching. Instead of attacking or defending, He divided his small fleet into even smaller groups. He sent them in different directions away from the enemy. "He's retreating," someone shouted from above. The Velthian crowd laughed, but Lyra didn't laugh. She leaned forward, studying his moves carefully. Tae Yang sent one small group of ships toward an asteroid field near the battlefield. Another group moved toward a nearby moon. A third group actually flew toward the enemy, but stayed just out of weapons range, taunting them. The enemy fleet, programmed to think like Velthians, took the bait. They chased the small group, eager for an easy victory. The main enemy force broke formation. That's when Tae Yang sprung his trap. The ships in the asteroid field had been placing mines and hiding them among the rocks. As the enemy ships passed through, explosions rippled across their formations. Not enough to destroy them, but enough to damage and slow them down. The ships near the moon had been using its gravity to slingshot around at high speed. They came screaming back into the battlefield from an unexpected angle, hitting the now scattered enemy forces from the side. Meanwhile, Tae Yang's supply convoy, disguised as damaged ships broadcasting distress signals, slipped through the chaos. The enemy was so focused on the battle that they ignored what looked like harmless wreckage drifting past their lines. In 30 minutes, the convoy reached Draxia Prime. Mission accomplished. The room went silent. War Master Krell stared at the hologram like it had personally betrayed him. This is not how warfare is conducted. It is for humans, Tae Yang said. We learned a long time ago that we can't always be the strongest. So we got creative. We use the environment, we use psychology, we adapt. That's what makes us dangerous. Krell looked at him with new eyes. You did not try to win the battle. You simply completed the mission. Isn't that the point of war? Achieve your goal with minimum losses? From above, Princess Lyra spoke for the first time. He has passed the second trial. Her voice was strange, almost reluctant. The human thinks differently than we do. This is unexpected. That evening, Tae Yang was given quarters on the Crimson Dawn. He was lying on the bed, too nervous to sleep before tomorrow's final trial. When the door chimed, Princess Lyra stood outside. She wore simpler clothing now, not her armor or formal robes. She looked younger somehow, less like a warrior princess and more like a person. "May I come in?" she asked. Tae Yang sat up quickly. "Of course, Princess. Call me Lyra," she said, entering. She looked around the sparse room. "I wanted to speak with you before the final trial." "To wish me luck?" She smiled slightly. "No, to understand you." She sat in the room's single chair. "2 trials, and you have passed both using methods no Velthian would consider. You do not fight like a warrior. You fight like a human," Tae Yang finished. "Yes." She studied him. "Tell me about your people." "About Earth. I have read reports, but I want to hear it from you." So Tae Yang told her. He talked about Earth's history, about how humans fought and struggled and survived. He told her about wars and peace, about art and music, about the million different cultures that somehow shared one small planet. "We're not the strongest species," he admitted. "We're not the smartest. We're probably not even the most advanced anymore, but we never give up. When something knocks us down, we get back up. We adapt, we change, we find a way." Lyra listened quietly. "My people have conquered hundreds of worlds," she said softly. "We are feared and respected across the galaxy. But we have stopped changing. We do things the same way we did 10,000 years ago because that is tradition." She looked at him. "Maybe that is why no other species has passed the trials. They all tried to beat us at our own game. You have to play your own game," Tae Yang said. "That's what humans learned." Lyra stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars stretched endlessly. "I have been preparing my whole life to be a warrior princess. I learned to fight, to command, to inspire fear, but..." She hesitated. "I also love things I am not supposed to love. Poetry, art, music. These are considered weaknesses for someone of my position." "They're not weaknesses," Tae Yang said. "They're what make you more than just a warrior." She turned to look at him, and something in her expression made his heart beat faster. "No Velthian has ever said that to me. They see me as Princess Lyra, third in line to the throne, a symbol, a weapon. But you..." She paused. "You speak to me like I am just Lyra. Because that's who you are, isn't it? Just Lyra who happens to also be a princess," she smiled, a real smile this time. "My father gave me the name Lyra because it means song in the old language. He said even warriors need beauty in their lives, but I have never told anyone what my name means." It's a beautiful name, Taeyang said. They talked for hours. Lyra asked about human music, so Taeyang sang her a traditional Korean folk song his grandmother had taught him. His voice wasn't perfect, but Lyra listened like it was the most amazing thing she had ever heard. She told him about growing up in the Velthian palace, about the weight of expectations and duty, about wanting to be more than what everyone expected. When she finally left, the sun was rising on the Crimson Dawn's massive view screen. Taeyang realized he had forgotten this was supposed to be a temporary arrangement. Somewhere in the night, talking to Lyra, she had stopped being the alien princess he needed to escape from. She had become someone he wanted to know better. The third trial began at noon. The endurance of spirit, Krell called it. Taeyang was taken to a small room with padded walls and a single chair. Sensors were attached to his head. This trial tests the mind, Krell explained. You will face your worst fears, your deepest doubts, your greatest pains. The simulation will push you until you break. Most last 10 minutes. Some last an hour. Only one Velthian in history has lasted 3 hours. How long do I need to last? Taeyang asked. Until you give up, or until your mind cannot take any more. Lyra appeared at the doorway. She looked worried. Taeyang, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. He smiled at her. Yes, I do. For my people. For yours and... He looked at her directly. Maybe for us. She blinked in surprise but said nothing. The simulation began. Taeyang was thrown into nightmare after nightmare. He saw Earth burning. He saw his friends dying. He felt pain like his body was being torn apart. He experienced failure after failure, watching everything he cared about destroyed. But every time he wanted to give up, he thought about why he was here. He thought about humanity proving its worth. He thought about the alliance that could save his people. And he thought about Lyra, about her smile when he sang to her, about the person she was beneath the warrior princess exterior. Humans were good at endurance. They didn't have the strength of Velthians or the speed of other species, but they could keep going when others would quit. They could hold on to hope even in the darkest moments. Hours passed. The simulation threw everything at him, but Taeyang held on. He focused on good memories. His grandmother's smile, his first flight in space, Lyra's eyes when she listened to his song. Taeyang sat in the medical bay of the Crimson Dawn recovering from the trial. His head still ached from the mental simulation, but his heart ached even more from confusion. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. What if I don't want to be free? Before he could respond to her, she had been called away by Velthian officials. The completion of the trials had created chaos. No non-Velthian had ever passed all 3 tests. The entire empire needed to decide what this meant. Dr. Sumin checked his vital signs for the 3rd time. You're lucky your brain didn't turn to soup. 4 hours in that simulation? That's insane. I had good motivation, Taeyang said quietly. Quan leaned against the wall, grinning. So now that you've proven humans are awesome, what happens with the princess? Are you still bonded? I don't know. The trials were supposed to let us dissolve the bond with honor. But she said, he trailed off. That she doesn't want to be free, Sumin finished. I was there, remember? The question is, what do you want? Taeyang thought about it. A week ago, being bonded to an alien princess seemed like the worst disaster possible. Now he remembered talking with her late into the night. He remembered her smile when he sang. He remembered how she looked at him, not as an ambassador or a human, but as a person. I want to talk to her, he said. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. Captain Jiwoo's voice came over the communication system. All human personnel, return to the Soul's Pride immediately. We have a situation. Taeyang jumped up despite his exhaustion. They rushed through the Crimson Dawn's corridors. Velthian warriors ran in the opposite direction, heading to battle stations. Something was very wrong. On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, Captain Jiwoo showed them tactical displays. We've got incoming ships. Not Velthian. They're from House Mordain, a rival faction in the Empire. What do they want? Taeyang asked. According to the message they sent to the Crimson Dawn, they're here to prevent a disgrace to Velthian honor. Apparently, word spread about your trials. Some Velthians are not happy that a human succeeded. War Master Krell appeared on the communication screen. Ambassador Taeyang, House Mordain has declared that your trials were invalid. They claim Princess Lyra helped you cheat. They are demanding she return with them for judgment. That's ridiculous, Tae-Yang said. She didn't help me at all. Truth does not matter to them. They seek to embarrass House Veltus and prevent an alliance with humanity. If they take Princess Lyra, there will be civil war among our people. What can we do? The princess has fled in an escape pod. She is heading to the old mining station at coordinates I am sending you. She asked that you meet her there, alone. It's a trap, Captain Jiwoo said immediately. Perhaps, Krell agreed, but it is also the only chance to prevent disaster. I cannot send Velthian forces without starting the very war we seek to avoid. But a human acting independently, he let the implication hang. Tae-Yang understood. Give me a ship. Tae-Yang, no, Hana protested. This is too dangerous. I have to go. If Lyra is in trouble because of me, I can't just hide here. Quan stepped forward. Then I'm going with you. Me too, Yuna said. You'll need an engineer if things go wrong. 20 minutes later, they were in a small shuttle racing toward the coordinates. The mining station was old, abandoned decades ago when the veins dried up. It drifted in the darkness between two dead planets. As they approached, Tae-Yang saw another ship already docked. Larger, sleeker, definitely hostile. House Mordain got here first, Quan said quietly. They landed on the opposite side of the station and entered through an airlock. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows. The station was huge, full of tunnels and chambers where miners once worked. Split up? Yuna suggested. No, Tae-Yang said. We stay together. Lyra's signal is coming from the central processing area. They moved through the station carefully. Tae-Yang had grabbed a stun weapon from the shuttle, but he felt out of his depth. This was real danger, not a simulation or trial. They found Lyra in a large chamber filled with old mining equipment. She stood on a raised platform, facing 3 Velthian warriors. Even from a distance, Tae-Yang could see she was injured. Her armor was damaged and purple blood stained her side. Princess Lyra, the largest warrior said. His armor was black and silver, marking him as high-ranking. You have disgraced our people by bonding with an inferior species. You will return with us to face judgment. I have broken no laws, Lyra said firmly, despite her injury. The bonding was accidental, but the human proved himself through the trials. He has earned respect. He is a human, the warrior spat. They are weak, primitive. Your father has grown soft, allowing this. House Mordain will restore true Velthian pride. Tae-Yang stepped out of the shadows. Then you'll have to go through me first. The warriors turned. Their leader laughed. The pet human. How convenient. We will eliminate you and take the princess. 2 problems solved. Quan and Yuna emerged beside Tae-Yang, weapons ready. It wasn't much, but they stood together. Lyra's eyes widened. Tae-Yang, no, run! You cannot fight them. I'm not running, he said. Not from you. Not anymore, the warriors charged. The fight was chaos. Quan fought with surprising skill, his weapon stunning one warrior. Yuna used the mining equipment, activating old machinery that swung heavy arms at the attackers. But Tae-Yang went straight for the leader. He was bigger, stronger, faster. Every strike felt like getting hit by a shuttle. But Tae-Yang used what he learned in the first trial. Don't match strength with strength. Be faster. Be smarter. He dodged and weaved, leading the warrior around the chamber. He used the old equipment as obstacles, the narrow platforms to limit movement. When the warrior struck, Tae-Yang made sure the blow hit machinery instead, causing sparks and damage. Stand still and fight like a warrior. The leader roared. I am fighting, Tae-Yang gasped. Just not like a Velthian. Behind him he heard Lyra scream. One of the warriors had broken past Quan and was climbing toward her platform. She was too injured to fight properly. Without thinking, Tae-Yang grabbed a piece of broken metal pipe and threw it. The pipe struck the warrior in the head, making him stumble. It gave Lyra enough time to kick him back down. But the distraction cost Tae-Yang. The leader's hand closed around his throat, lifting him off the ground. Tae-Yang couldn't breathe. His vision started to darken. Weak, the warrior hissed. Just as I thought. Then Lyra was there. Despite her injuries, despite everything, she launched herself at the leader with a fierce cry. She struck him with such force that he dropped Tae-Yang and stumbled backward. Don't you dare call him weak, Lyra snarled. She stood over Tae-Yang protectively, her eyes burning with purple fire. This human has more courage than any warrior I have known. He faced trials meant for Velthians and succeeded. He came here to save me when he could have stayed safe. He fights for others, not for glory. That is true strength. The leader wiped blood from his mouth. You defend this creature? You truly have fallen, Princess. No, Lyra said softly. I have finally seen clearly. My people pride themselves on strength, but we have become arrogant. We dismiss those who are different as inferior. But these humans, they possess qualities we have forgotten. Adaptability, creativity, the courage to change. Suddenly, the station shook. A massive ship appeared outside the viewports. The Crimson Dawn War Master Krell's voice boomed over every speaker in the station. House Mordain, you have attacked a member of the royal family. Surrender immediately or face destruction. The leader of the warriors looked at his men, then at the massive battleship outside. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. This is not over. The Empire will hear of this disgrace. Let them hear, Lyra said. Let them hear that I choose honor over tradition. Let them hear that I choose this bond freely. Taeyang pulled himself up, still coughing. Lyra? She turned to him and her expression was soft. When you completed the trials, we could have dissolved the bond. No one would have questioned it. But in that moment, I realized I did not want to. These past days, talking with you, seeing how you think, how you care for others, you have shown me what I was missing in my life. The Mordain warriors were being arrested by Velthian soldiers who had boarded the station. Krell himself approached, looking at Lyra and Taeyang with an expression that might have been approval. Princess Lyra, he said formally, you must return to the Crimson Dawn. Your father, the Emperor, wishes to speak with you. Both of you. On the shuttle ride back, Lyra sat beside Taeyang. Their hands found each other in the space between them. Are you sure about this? Taeyang asked quietly. Choosing to keep the bond? It will change everything for you. Lyra smiled. I have spent my whole life following the path others set for me. For the first time, I am choosing my own path, and I choose you, even though I'm human, because you are human. You have shown me what my people have lost in our pride. And, she hesitated, then continued, you have shown me what it means to be seen as myself, not just as a princess. Taeyang squeezed her hand. Then I choose you too. Not because of the bond, not because of duty, because when I'm with you I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Ahead, the Crimson Dawn waited. Behind it, the Soul's Pride floated peacefully. Two ships, two peoples brought together by an accidental. The throne room of Emperor Valth was the most impressive place Taeyang had ever seen. It was carved from a single massive crystal that glowed with inner light. Hundreds of Velthian nobles lined the walls in their finest armor. At the far end, on a throne that seemed to be made of frozen starlight, sat the Emperor himself. Emperor Valth was old by Velthian standards, perhaps 300 years. His silver skin had faded to almost white, and scars covered his arms like badges of honor. But his eyes were sharp and intelligent. When he looked at Taeyang, it felt like being examined by a force of nature. Princess Lyra stood beside Taeyang, her hand in his. She wore formal robes of purple and silver, her injuries from the station now treated and healing. She stood tall and proud, showing no fear despite what might happen. Behind them stood the human delegation. Ambassador Hana, Captain Jiwoo, Dr. Sumin, Quan, and Yuna. And on the other side, War Master Krell and High Chancellor Draven represented the Velthian military and government. Princess Lyra, my daughter, the Emperor's voice filled the enormous room. You have created quite a situation. Yes, Father, Lyra said clearly. And I stand by my choices. The Emperor leaned forward. You bonded with a human. Accidentally, I understand. The trials gave you a way to dissolve this bond with honor, yet you chose to keep it. Why? Lyra took a breath. Because I have spent my whole life being what others expected. The perfect warrior, the obedient daughter, the symbol of Velthian strength. But I have never been allowed to simply be myself. She looked at Taeyang. This human saw me. Not Princess Lyra, not a symbol, just Lyra. He spoke to me about poetry and music, about dreams and fears. He made me realize that being strong does not mean giving up everything that makes you who you are. The Emperor's expression was unreadable. And you, human. Ambassador Taeyang. You passed trials that have defeated hundreds of species for 10,000 years. You fought my daughter's enemies despite being weaker than them. Why? Taeyang met the Emperor's gaze steadily. Because it was the right thing to do. Not for political reasons. Not for an alliance. Because Lyra needed help and I... He paused, then spoke the truth. I care about her. More than I thought possible for someone I've known such a short time. A murmur went through the assembled nobles. Some sounded approving. others angry. "You are aware," the Emperor said, "that accepting this bond makes you part of the royal family of the Velthian Empire. You would have duties and responsibilities. You would be expected to uphold our ways while bringing your human perspective. This is not a simple marriage. It is a political union that will affect billions of lives." "I understand," Taeyang said, "and I'm ready to accept that responsibility, but only if it's what Lyra truly wants. Not because of a bonding ceremony, not because of politics, because we choose each other." The Emperor stood. The entire room fell silent. He walked down from his throne, his steps echoing in the vast chamber. He stopped in front of Taeyang and Lyra. 10,000 years, he said quietly. "For 10,000 years my people have believed we were superior to all other species. We conquered and ruled, certain of our greatness. But in that time we stopped growing. We stopped changing. We became frozen in our pride." He looked at his daughter. "Perhaps it takes an accident to show us what we have been missing." He turned to address the entire room. "This human passed our trials using methods we never considered. He showed courage and intelligence in ways we did not expect. He has proven that strength comes in many forms, and my daughter has chosen him freely, with full knowledge of what it means." The Emperor looked at Taeyang. "I could forbid this bond. I have that power. But I am old enough to recognize when change is necessary. I am wise enough to see an opportunity when it presents itself." He smiled slightly. "And I am a father who wants his daughter to be happy." Emperor Valth raised his voice. "I approve this bond. Princess Lyra and Ambassador Taeyang will be united in marriage, combining Velthian and human traditions. Let this be the first step toward a true alliance between our peoples." The room erupted. Some nobles cheered. Others protested loudly. But the Emperor's word was final. Lyra threw her arms around Taeyang, tears streaming down her face. "He approved. Father approved." "I heard," Taeyang laughed, holding her tight. "I was standing right here." Ambassador Hana stepped forward and bowed to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, on behalf of Earth and humanity, we are honored by this decision. We hope this marks the beginning of a lasting friendship between our peoples." "As do I," Emperor Valth said, "though I suspect your people will have strong opinions about one of their ambassadors marrying alien royalty." Taeyang winced. He hadn't even thought about what Earth's government would say. Captain Jiwoo noticed his expression and grinned. "Don't worry. I've been sending reports. President Choi is thrilled. Apparently this is the best diplomatic coup in human history. The next 3 weeks were chaos. Plans had to be made. 2 completely different cultures had to figure out how to create a wedding that honored both traditions. Human officials arrived from Earth. Velthian nobles came from across the Empire. The media from 100 worlds descended on the Crimson Dawn to cover the event. Dr. Suman worked with Velthian scholars to design a ceremony that combined both cultures. There would be a traditional Korean payback ceremony, where Taeyang and Lyra would bow to their families. There would be a Velthian warrior's oath where they would pledge to defend each other with their lives. There would be the exchange of Earth rings and Velthian crystal bonds. President Jia Choi herself came to represent Earth. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a clever smile. When she met Taeyang privately, she said, "You have done more for human-alien relations in 1 month than my entire government has done in 10 years. How do you feel?" "Terrified," Taeyang admitted. "And happy. Mostly terrified, though." "Good," President Choi laughed. "If you weren't scared, I'd think you didn't understand what you were getting into. But I've read the reports. You passed impossible trials. You fought enemies while injured and outmatched. You've earned this happiness. Enjoy it." The wedding day arrived. The ceremony was held on a beautiful planet called Vela Prime, neutral ground between Earth and Velthian space. A massive pavilion had been constructed that blended Korean architecture with Velthian crystal design. Taeyang stood at the altar wearing a modified hanbok in deep blue, combined with Velthian ceremonial armor on his shoulders. He felt ridiculous and magnificent at the same time. Kwan stood beside him as best man, grinning like a fool. Then Lyra appeared and Taeyang forgot how to breathe. She wore a dress that somehow combined a traditional Korean wedding dress with Velthian royal robes. Purple and silver fabric flowed around her. Her silver skin glowed in the light. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. As she walked toward him, he remembered that first day. Her demanding voice over the communication screen. The anger when they discovered the accidental bond. The certainty that this was a disaster. Now she smiled at him with love and joy, and he knew this was anything but a disaster. This was the beginning of something wonderful. The ceremony was long, full of traditions and rituals. But Taeyang barely noticed. He was focused on Lyra, on the way she looked at him, on the promises they made to each other in front of two worlds. When it came time for the vows, Lyra spoke first. Taeyang, you showed me that strength is not just in combat or power. It is in kindness, in creativity, in the courage to be yourself. You saw me when others saw only a princess. You gave me the freedom to choose my own path. I vow to stand beside you, to learn from your people as you learn from mine, to build a future together. Taeyang took her hands. Lyra, you challenged everything I thought I knew. You showed me that different doesn't mean wrong, that tradition and change can exist together. You chose me when you could have chosen anyone in the galaxy. I vow to honor that choice every day, to be worthy of your trust, to love you across the stars. War Master Krell stepped forward with the ceremonial Velthian blade. In our tradition, bonded warriors mark each other as equals. He handed the blade to Lyra. She carefully cut a small mark on Taeyang's palm, then did the same to her own. They pressed their hands together, mixing their blood. It should have felt strange or scary, but it felt right. President Choi presented them with rings, simple bands that represented Earth's tradition of eternal love. They exchanged them with trembling hands. Finally, Emperor Valth himself came forward. By the ancient laws of the Velthian Empire and the customs of Earth, I declare you bonded in marriage. May your union bring peace and prosperity to both our peoples. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and Velthians celebrating together for the first time in history. At the reception, music played that blended Korean instruments with Velthian harmonics. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow it did. People danced and laughed. Barriers that had existed for millions of years seemed to dissolve in the joy of the moment. Taeyang and Lyra stood on a balcony watching the celebration. In the sky above, both Earth's moon and the Velthian homeworld were visible, distant but present. Do you regret it? Lyra asked quietly, giving up your simple life as an ambassador. Taeyang laughed. My life was never simple after I met you. From the moment you appeared on that screen demanding we prove ourselves, everything changed.